How to understand the Bible. Many Christians today are not familiar with the first covenant narrative of God's dealing with rebellious Israel and the salvation that his prophets declared to a stiff-necked nation that will come through Messiah. The first 5 books were written solely for the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob after their deliverance from Egypt. It serves as a retelling of their origin exodus, their constant rebellion, and most important of all, God's commandments at Mount Sinai. And the rest of the historical and prophetic books were a record of their perpetual unfaithfulness, idolatry, and wickedness throughout their generations after they set foot into the Promised Land. Messiah was foretold as early as Genesis, and as the rebellious kingdom approaches their end as determined by God, the frequency of messianic prophecies increases. Therefore, in order to understand the New Covenant, a full understanding of the First Covenant is absolutely necessary. The scriptures of the Old Testament will put everything in perspective for the New Testament. The cause of today's lack of scripture understanding began in the first half of the 2nd century by so-called church fathers who focused on defining God through Greek philosophy instead of understanding the scriptural narrative. According to Clement of Alexandria, the basic understanding of the biblical narrative is barbarous philosophy. And so, because of the dependency on philosophy to make scripture intelligible, strange doctrines that did not exist among the first-century believers were constantly added, thus became the foundation for today's Christian beliefs. Finally, because the Scriptures was not of great significance to these so-called church fathers as it was to a faithful Israelite, they did not see fit to read it the way it was plainly written. Luke 24 verses 25 to 27. Then he said to them, O foolish ones, and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not the Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself.